Welcome to the Ghostly Gallery podcast, a place where we explore the world of horror and mystery in film, television, literature, and in popular culture. Well, greetings once again, everybody. Welcome to the latest program of the Ghostly Gallery. My name is Bruce Markison, and once again, I'm joined by my co-host and producer, Tracy Asteria. Tracy, what's going on with you?
Oh, Bruce. Well, welcome to November the 1st. Halloween was last night. It was cold and rainy. So that didn't dampen really my spirits because Freddy Krueger himself, he actually got a Walk of Fame star
Oh, yeah.
on Friday. So that was really, really, really exciting. Really exciting to see. I saw a picture online. So yeah, that was good, exciting news.
Yeah,
How about
well
you?
deserved
Yeah.
for Robert.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, maybe one of
exactly.
these years they'll get around to giving Lon Chaney Jr. his star. We talked about that before,
hmm
but certainly Robert Englund deserves it. So did you do anything special at all for Halloween? Do you get a lot of trick-or-treaters?
No, typically we don't get a lot here, but usually we do get some. But the weather was just absolutely terrifying last
Mm.
night. The little ones, they would just kind of probably blow away.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as I was telling you off air, had a ghost tour. It was kind of a cold and rainy night, but I had a couple of diehard people who had made a reservation. Very nice. We had a good time taking them around the town, even though it was a very windy night, but it kind of fit the mood of Halloween. And then I settled in. I watched the World Series, a very exciting game between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. And in the meantime, I taped 3 more movies from the Movies TV network, which I have been looking at obsessively throughout the month, thanks to our guest, Dr. Jeff Thompson, on an earlier episode. So I taped Horror Hotel, Exorcist 3, and there was one of because I was not going to be able to watch them while the World Series was on. I must have taped 25, 30 movies this month from that network.
Wow.
They've had a lot of good stuff there. Horror Hotel is one of my absolute favorites. Exorcist 3 is criminally underrated. And the third movie that I don't remember, I know is also good. And they've got a lot of great classic horror, really from the 1940s through the 1990s. Just a lot of great stuff there.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. I wish we had that channel here. I can't access that from here.
I'm going to give that to you as a Christmas gift. I was going to do that last year and I forgot, and I'm going to get you it's the friendly package. It's really not that expensive, and we are going to gift that to you. Sue and I are going to work on that project so that you can watch all these wonderful movies. You'll also be able to watch Svengoolie Saturday nights on MeTV.
Oh my goodness. I
Yeah,
have never seen him on TV, just pictures. That's it.
we definitely got to get this for you. Absolutely. We also are very happy to have as our main attraction this week a familiar face here in the Ghostly Gallery, and that is our good friend Josh Hitchens. Josh is a remarkable historian, actor, theater director, author, playwright. Josh basically does it all when it comes to horror, very active in the Philadelphia area. We're going to talk to him about a film that came out 40 years ago. We'll tell you about that in a moment. But without any further ado, let us welcome back Josh Hitchens. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, and it's lovely to be back with both of you. Especially, Halloween was last night, but Halloween is forever for all of us, as we all know. And just going off of what you said, Bruce, I just want to co-sign, Horror Hotel, aka City of the Dead, is an incredible, incredible film. And Exorcist 3 is as well, and has, and I will die on this hill, the best jump scare in horror movie history. Great recommendations.
Very good, very good. What did you do for Halloween, by the way?
So we hosted a party at our house with a bunch of friends, and it was a potluck dinner, and we ate food, and we played a really fun immersive card game called This House is Haunted, which is played totally in the dark. And you designate several rooms in your house as haunted spots, and you send people there one by one, armed only with a flashlight, for 13 rounds. And it was a very good time.
Did you invent this game?
Oh, no. I found it on the blessed internet. Yeah, because I was looking for like a creepy horror themed game that would accommodate like 11 to 12 people, and those are few and far between. But I found this game and it was really fun. I highly recommend it. And it's from like an independent game developer and seller as well. So that's always good to support those folks.
So this was close friends and family that came over?
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, it was a fun time.
Nice. Was Edward Pettit there by any chance?
Unfortunately not. I wish.
Okay.
I love Ed dearly.
Well, if he was there, you might have had to shut the party down.
I mean, that is very possible.
Very good. Yeah, I've got to find out more about this game. That might be something we can do in the Marcuson household. Well, this week we're going to talk to Josh about a film that came out 40 years ago. It was November 1st, 1985. It's a made-for-TV movie called The Midnight Hour, and it premiered on ABC television the day after Halloween. We're going to get Josh's thoughts in depth on this really underrated film, and a movie that I saw for the first time a couple of years ago, and then I rewatched it this week, and I think I have a newfound appreciation for it. So here's the storyline to the movie. It's set on Halloween night in the fictional New England town of Pitchford Grove, and the story centers on a group of 5 high school friends who visit a museum at nighttime so they can steal some costumes to use for that evening. They also decide to take with them a chest filled with witch-like paraphernalia. The group then makes their way to a local graveyard where they read an incantation from an old parchment and unwittingly raise the dead. And their stunt really goes awry because they also bring back supernatural creatures like vampires and werewolves. And this includes one of their great ancestors named Lucinda. She happens to be a combination of witch and vampire and essentially becomes the leader of this army of the undead. Also brought back is a young cheerleader named Sandy from the 1950s. And Sandy tries to help the kids as they attempt to fend off the creatures of the night. Now, as the story progresses, Sandy and Phil face a deadline. Phil being one of the main characters in this film, they face a deadline of midnight to reverse the effects of the incantation. Otherwise, the entire town will be left as victims to this large group of werewolves, vampires, witches, and other nefarious creatures. And all of this leads to a pretty wild ending, with the last 15 to 20 minutes really reaching a frenzy. And that's where the movie peaks. And that's always kind of a good sign for a good horror film, when the end, the last third act, if you will, is the best. And I think it really is in this movie. So, Josh, I'm curious, did you watch this movie when it first aired back in 1985? I'm not sure if you would have been old enough to do that, or did you happen to see it later on?
Great summary of the plot, Bruce. Thank you. And to answer your question, I did not see the original broadcast. I am 40 years old this year, the same age this movie is. And so I was born in July. So I did not see the original, but I have to give immense thanks to my mother, because my mother recorded the original broadcast of The Midnight Hour on November 1st, 1985. And I first saw it, I think, when I was about 8 years old or so. And I immediately fell in love with it because, I was all, as we've talked about on previous episodes, I've always been interested in horror, like a spooky-minded kid, as I have said. And this movie just ticked all of my boxes. It has everything you want for a Halloween movie. It has comedy, it has horror, it has like there's a musical number. It really captures like the autumnal feel of Halloween better than I think any film I've ever seen. And ever since I first saw it when I was 8 years old, even though there were some sequences that I literally, as the stereotype says, like would hide behind the couch when they would go on, like, and then reemerge when they were over. And like those sequences that I hid back behind the couch from, like when I was 8 years old, I still find scary today. Like, I think it's an extremely well-made film, with lots and lots of Halloween virtue to it. And it makes it's the one Halloween movie I have to watch every single year. And so hats off to my mom for taping that original broadcast on November 1st, 1985.
Well, I knew you liked it, but wow, you really hold this in high regard.
I do. And part of the reason, why I was so excited to be able to come on to your podcast and talk about it is because I think this is a movie that has unfortunately not quite become lost media, but is almost lost media. So it aired on November 1st, 1985 as part of the ABC Friday night movie back when, as you both probably remember, like the major networks did, pretty big budget movies, like weekly movies with great actors and directors and writers. And, but after it aired, it kind of languished a bit. Like it was released on VHS soon after it aired by Vidmark. I still have my original VHS copy of it, that I bought when my local mom and pop video rental store closed. And then in 2000, the Midnight Hour received both another VHS and also a DVD released by Anchor Bay Entertainment. And those went quickly out of print. So this movie you cannot buy unless it is bootlegged in physical media at all. It is not streaming on any major service. It is thankfully preserved on YouTube, both and the Internet Archive, both in like the original aired versions, which contain all the original 1985 commercials. So that's a really fun way to see it. But Some Kind Soul also has done a restoration of the film, which is posted on YouTube, which I downloaded immediately when I saw it, because you never know how long that's going to last. So like it is still available to watch on YouTube and the Internet Archive, but other than that, it is not available anywhere. And I really do think it's one of the best Halloween movies ever made for me.
Oh my gosh. I just saw it for the very first time. Excuse me. I just saw it for the first time the other night, and I did find it on YouTube, and I thought it was amazing. So, my first question for you, Josh, I know you didn't see it when it originally ran, but does this kind of invoke really cool Halloween memories for you, or did it give you any inspiration for Halloween when you were growing up as a kid?
That's a great question. I mean, I think really the Midnight Hour informed like how I felt about the Halloween experience in a way. And it's also like interesting to note because like Midnight Hour was first released on November 1st, 1985, but 2 days earlier, you have the first airing of Garfield's Halloween Adventure on TV, which like I feel like those two things, like the Midnight Hour and Garfield's Halloween Adventure, really gave me my Halloween spirit. Like, with all due respect to It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, which is obviously also wonderful and also a huge part of my childhood, but the fact that like these two pieces of media came out within 2 days of one another in the year that I was born always felt very special to me, and like gave me like a lot of Halloween joy that I've continued to have throughout my life.
Oh, that's awesome. There's just something really cool about stuff that was released in the 80s. I will definitely say that I'm an 80s kid. I grew up in the 80s, but it has such a cool feel, and you know, there's times I miss those days.
Yeah.
um oh, so if you could introduce this movie to a brand new generation of horror fans, what are some of the things you might highlight for them?
Thank you so much. Great question. So, my pitch for The Midnight Hour is that it is a movie that has everything that you would want in a movie set on Halloween. It has a perfect setting, the all-American Massachusetts town of Pitchford Grove, which is clearly modeled on Salem, Massachusetts as well. And as one of the characters relates, was sometimes referred to as Pitchfork Cove because of the witch, Lucinda Cavender, amazingly played by Jonelle Allen. My God.
Yeah.
And we learn that she placed a terrible curse on the town, that all the demons of hell would be released on the earth. And if they're not stopped by the midnight hour, then the demons of hell will release forever. And so what this movie does is it gives you like an immensely evocative setting with a beautiful autumnal atmosphere. Like the whole opening credits are like little kids and adults around this small New England town getting ready for Halloween, getting ready for trick-or-treating. And then it introduces you to all like the teenage characters, and in particular one who is very interested in the like spooky history of the town, who I kind of latched on to when I was 8 years old, and I made the character Phil Grenville, played by the great Lee Montgomery, kind of my whole personality, and I kind of have become him. I fulfilled the role. And then, like, as you mentioned in the opening summary, they go to the local witchcraft museum and they steal actual clothing that was worn by Lucinda Cavender, the witch, and Nathaniel Grenville, the witch hunter, and take them to use for the Halloween party they're going to be throwing at the old spooky Cavender mansion later that night on Halloween. But they also steal artifacts, which contains a scroll that ends up being a spell, and they go to a graveyard and cast that spell. And the scene that happens after they cast the spell and they realize, oh, maybe we made a mistake here. And they leave, and then you see all of the dead rise from their graves in that cemetery. It is honestly, for me, still to this day, having seen a lot of horror movies, one of my favorite, and I think one of the scariest scenes I've seen in all of horror. I love it. And then there's a Halloween party with lots of folks dressed up. And the thing about the Midnight Hour is it does give you everything. Like you get like ghost characters, you get witches who are suddenly also vampires as well, for ways that, like, because the script says so, it's fine, we go with it. You have like zombies of all different kinds, you have werewolves of different kinds. This movie is the only movie that has a werewolf that has scared me, and I've seen them all. And it's funny, it is scary, it has great actors in it, and it also has a musical number inspired by Thriller, my Elton song. And the makeup and the choreography and the special effects were actually done by the same team that made Michael Jackson's Thriller. So
Oh,
it is,
wow.
yeah. So like it looks extraordinarily good. Like this is a movie of the week in 1985, but it was made with such care and love by everyone who made it. And like you'd think it was big budget, even though it's not. And it also has a romantic aspect to it, a sweetness to it, and a killer soundtrack of 50 songs. Like it has for me, it has everything you could want in a Halloween film.
Oh my gosh. And, I was mentioning to Bruce before we went on air that if I wasn't told this was a made for TV movie, I would have had no idea because it didn't give me that feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was a time when made for TV movies, I think, were starting to fall a little bit away from their prime, at least horror genre movies. There were so many made in the 70s, and there were a few in the early 80s, and then, of course, this one in the mid 80s, but not that many after that. That certainly none that were as memorable as this one.
Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of sadness to that, like for me as someone who also like lived through that time, because like I do remember that like, network when there were 4 network TV stations you could get, like you had so much diversity in films that were made for TV, that were made like theatrical films, and the talent that went into the midnight hour, both, in the cast and behind the scenes, is truly incredible.
Yeah. So, Josh, the midnight hour begins in really a lighthearted way, as you kind of mentioned, that autumnal setting, but it's pretty peaceful. It almost has a Disney-like movie feel at the beginning. But then that tone changes drastically about a third of the way through, and it really becomes a lot darker. I was really surprised by that the first time I saw it. How about you?
Yeah, I was too, and like, as someone who has literally watched this movie hundreds of times, every year, like something I always think about in those like idyllic opening credits, like the town and like the shots of it that they use remind me a lot of like the town of Stars Hollowing, the show Gilmore Girls. In a way, it's like this idealized version of an American town. And even though this movie was, of course, filmed in Southern California, they do a great job of like capturing a New England feel. But, both as like a young kid and still today, I think about those opening credits with like, the 2 little kids playing in the leaves, and the first character we're introduced to in the opening shot, like the little boy delivering papers on the bicycle, who cuts his finger, and so the newspapers for Halloween get covered in his blood. Like I always wondered as a kid, like what is the movie behind the movie with them? Like, what happened to those children, like, during this night when all the demons of hell break loose? Like, did they survive? Did they, like, hide under beds or in closets? So that added, like, an added layer of creepiness to me, just because of my, like, spooky imagination. But I think it does such a beautiful job, that opening, of establishing this town and its residents, that this is an old place that has a history, over 300 years of history, and there is a creepy reckoning that's going to come.
There's also a scene where the primary villain, Lucinda, whom you've mentioned, attacks Melissa, the character played by Shari Belafonte. It's done in extreme slow motion in really a chilling way. I thought that was very effective.
Yes, I think that is one of the best scenes in this film. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because like that scene is, I think, one of the big tells that this is a movie made for television, versus a theatrical film. Because if this were a theatrical film, what would happen is that you would see Lucinda bite her descendant, Melissa Cavender, and you would see just the blood going everywhere, right? But because it's TV, what the director, Jack Bender, who, my God, has gone on to do so many great things, as did many of the people involved in this film, both in front of and behind the camera. So the way that they show that moment is that instead of seeing like blood from Lucinda and Melissa's feeding. You have, as you said, these slow motion shots of, because they're in the wine cellar of the old Cavender mansion. So what you see during that, to a soundtrack of The Smiths, which a song that had just been released, is bottles of red wine suddenly flying off of the shelves and splattering on the floor, glass breaking, red wine flowing, and the corks popping, and red wine like just splitting across the screen. And it is, even though it's not literal, I think it is one of the best metaphorical visualizations of a vampire attack that I've ever seen in film. It's an amazing sequence.
Yeah, it really is. Now, the cast has a lot of familiar names. Lee Montgomery is the lead. He plays Phil. He was the little boy in Burnt Offerings, a great movie. Here you can see he's a lot more grown up in this movie. So he's the lead character of Phil Grenville. And then the rest of the cast include Shari Belafonte, Peter DeLuise, Levar Burton, Kevin McCarthy of Invasion of the Body Snatchers fame, Cindy Morgan, who is a standout in Caddyshack. Now, that's not a horror movie, but a notable 1980s film. One of our favorites, Dedee Pfeiffer of Vamp fame, is in the movie. You've got Dick Van Patten from Eight is Enough. You've got Kurtwood Smith from That 70s Show. And as if that's not enough, a young Macaulay Culkin, who's probably like 4 years old, makes his first ever on-screen appearance playing an uncredited trick-or-treater. So this is kind of a who's who of TV and movies in the 80s and 90s, and even in some ways to the current day. So Josh, among the cast, who really stands out for you?
I mean, that's a very hard question. I mean, I really think they all do. And that is one of the great strengths of this film, is that everyone in this cast is amazing. I mean, of course, as you said, have Lee Montgomery, who like started out like in horror as a child star with Ben, the sequel to Willard, and Burnt Offerings, as you mentioned. And this was one of his two like breakout adult roles in 1985, The Midnight Hour, and also he was in Earth Girls Are Easy. Shari Belafonte as Melissa is incredible, and an incredible singer. Obviously, she has the genes for it. She was 31 years old when she made this movie, playing a high school student. You'd never know. Peter DeLuise as Mitch, who is kind of the jock character, does that like perfectly, while also showing like what it's like to live with a very abusive parent, who is of course played by Kevin McCarthy, as you mentioned, who is like one of the founding members of the Actors Studio, like Tony Award and Academy Award nominee, like great in everything he does. And he is super loathsome as like the Judge Crandall character, the hanging judge, as they call him. LeVar Burton, of course, needs like no introduction. By the time he made The Midnight Hour, he had done Roots, he had started reading Rainbow, and to come shortly after The Midnight Hour was Star Trek The Next Generation. He plays Vinny, who is kind of the outsider in the group. He's moved to this small New England town of Pitchford Grove from New York City, so he provides kind of a different perspective. You also have Jonna Lee as Sandy, who is the 50s cheerleader character, who is both beautiful and amazing. One of my first crushes, honestly, if I'm and Jonna Lee left acting a while ago, but she has a new life as a sculptor, and she has a website, and like her work is incredible. And Jonelle Allen as Lucinda Cavender, who is the witch who cursed the town of Pitchford Grove 300 years ago, and now returns when her curse is reinvoked, and is also a vampire as well, because why not? She was a Tony nominated musical actress, is incredible. Kurtwood Smith, yeah, we know like from that 70s show and many other things. Like he's just so good at playing that like smarmy, like, dissatisfied adult, like, oh,
Yeah.
these kids, I love Halloween. Dick Van Patten is obviously great. And I think like, cause Jack Bender, who directed this movie, also one of his first jobs was directing episodes of 8 is Enough, which of course Dick Van Patten stars in. So I'm like, maybe that's why he got in there. But, in the supporting realm, you also have Sheila Larkin as Phil's mother, Janet, who, most people, she's a small part in the film, but she played Dana Scully's mother in the X-Files.
Huh.
And then of course you have Wolfman Jack, like the legendary DJ, who's been in many movies as the radio DJ in this film. Like, it's an embarrassment of riches in this cast. And I love Dedee Pfeiffer in this as well, as Mary, who really wants to be the bride of Frankenstein, the hot jock, but ends up being bitten by her best friend, Melissa. It's just an astonishing cast from top to bottom.
Oh gosh, I absolutely agree. Kevin McCarthy's character was just over the top when he was turned into like that zombie thing. He's just amazing. He kind of always plays that same type of character. What did you think about his role in this movie?
I mean, for me, like I think he's quite scary, because he is a man. He plays a man who is in a position of power in the town. Like he's the head judge and has the reputation for sentencing people to death. Most prominently, Vernon Nestor, who is the serial killer in the world of this film. Kind of modeled on a lot of other serial killers. I would say John Wayne Gacy is a fair inspiration for that character, Vernon Nestor. And like Kevin McCarthy as Judge Crandall, like he's so cruel. I mean, he's clearly an alcoholic. Like he's almost never seen without like a glass of whiskey in his hand. And then there's, I don't know who the actress is, but who plays his wife, who, while he is like railing and yelling at his son Mitch, played by Peter DeLuise, like the wife and mom is just like sitting quietly in a chair doing her knitting, like trying to ignore it. And I will say, like, one of the moments that I always hid behind the couch for when I watched this movie as a kid, and I still, as a 40-year-old adult, kind of still want to do that. The scene where the undead serial killer Vernon Nestor comes back to kill Kevin McCarthy's Judge Crandall character, and he appears behind a trash can and says "guilty," and like scared the shit out of me, and kind of still does. It's a great performance, and again, like the opening credits with like the kids in them, like I wonder, after zombie Vernon Nestor kills Judge Crandall, like the camera pans to like, Judge Crandall's wife still doing her knitting inside the house, and I'm like, what happens to her? We don't know.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly, right? Oh dear. Another one that I just kind of wanted to mention too. I'm a really big fan of Peter DeLuise. He's from such a prominent family with, Dom DeLuise and then his brothers as well. He's gone on to do so much great work, like both acting as well as directing, both in sci-fi and the Hallmark movies. Did you notice any particular charm or style in his performance that really stood out for you?
I mean, my God, yes. Like he does, like he fulfills what that character needs to be perfectly. Like, Mitch, as played by Peter DeLuise, he's the jock. Like he's the popular kid, like that everyone wants to follow and be around. And he does that so beautifully. But again, also plays the other side of that, in that, like, which he confides a little bit to LeVar Burton's character Vinny, when they go off to the Halloween party. It is that, like, he's like, Vinny says, "What's up?" And Mitch says, "My old man." And the way he says that, exactly what he means. Like, and we've seen it. Like, we've seen how his father, played by Kevin McCarthy, treats him. Like, so it is, I think, for the time, especially, a very unusually nuanced portrayal of, like, that archetype of a jock character. And then, of course, later on in the film, with what happens to Mitch, you get to see a whole other side too. I think he's amazing. And I like you, Tracy, I love the career that Peter DeLuise has had since this, which I think is true of most of the folks involved in this film, is that even if they didn't stay involved in acting, like those who are still with us, especially, like, have gone on to do really great things.
No, I definitely agree.
Josh, you mentioned earlier the soundtrack, which is exceptional. A lot of great 1950s hits are included. And there are the several musical interludes, including a song called Get Dead. And that's a direct nod, as you mentioned, to Michael Jackson's Thriller, which debuted only a year earlier in the US in 1984. But I'm also wondering, Josh, is the emphasis on music here, do you think that's a direct tie-in to the growing popularity of MTV music television at the time? MTV, I want to say, started around 1980, and by the mid 80s was really a huge thing. Do you think that's an influence on this film?
That is a fascinating question, and I think it is, and it's both. It's both a looking with the music in this film. It is both a looking forward to, like, the MTV generation, and it's also a looking backward as well, to the 50s. And I also have to mention, and, like, needs to be said, like, there's the soundtrack, but also the score of this movie was done by Brad Fiedel, who also did the score in the same year, 1985, for the original Fright Night and Fright Night Part 2, the sequel that came, the first two Terminator movies, True Lies, like an amazing, amazing film composer. So, like, the score for this movie is absolutely chilling and wonderful. And the soundtrack of it, again, of course, influenced by the character of Sandy, who is the main protagonist alongside Phil Grenville, because of her attachment to the 50s. Like, you get a lot of great 50s songs, but which meld perfectly with the film. But you also, get, like, with that Thriller influence, and again, the people who worked on making the Thriller makeup and choreography working on this, get the song Get Dead, which I think is amazing. Like, it deserves to be on everyone's Halloween playlist. Like, I think Lady Gaga's song The Dead Dance owes a lot to it, in a way, in terms of the choreography. And but yeah, like, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Midnight Hour has such broad appeal across generations, because it is appealing both to the generations who have come before this movie was released, also to the generation watching it when it was released. And it all still feels very contemporary to me. Like, when I watch this movie, as I do often, and I hear the score and the 50 songs and Get Dead, it all seems to be of a piece in a way that seems still very current and very impressive for a made-for-TV movie from 1985.
You mentioned the character of Sandy. Is every high school girl in a movie from the 1950s named Sandy? It seems like everyone is.
Yeah, and I feel like that must have been a very intentional reference to Greece.
Yeah.
I feel like it must have been. And like, if we want to talk about like ways in which the Midnight Hour like script, which was written by Bill Blake, by the way, also known as William Blake, who wrote a lot of episodes of the TV show Poltergeist: The Legacy in the 1990s, which I also really enjoy. Like some of the holes is that like when everyone rises from the graveyard, right? They're mostly like very like heavily made up and like very, very creepy. Except for Lucinda, Cavender, and Sandy, who were like pristine as if like no decomposition has taken place. And why? Don't know. Doesn't matter in the end. Because without, if Phil didn't believe that she could be, just another random teenager trick-or-treating, we'd have no movie. So I forgive it.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you know any interesting behind the scenes stories for this movie or any cool little trivia that you can share?
Sure thing, yeah. So I've done a lot over the years. I've done a lot of research about this film and the people that made it. And it seemed there's not a lot out there, about like the making of process. And I feel like that makes sense, for the time, because again, this was a movie of the week. Everyone was happy to work. Everyone loved what they were doing, but there was no real expectation, I think, that, this would go anywhere or my God, even be remembered so passionately by so many people, including myself, 40 years later. But Jack Bender and Bill Blake had made a prior movie in 1985 called Deadly Messages, which is available on YouTube, and it's a pretty good, like, again, made for TV, like, horror thriller about a woman who moves into a new apartment and finds a Ouija board and uses it and comes in contact with the spirit of another woman who was previously murdered in that same apartment, and that's sort of how the movie goes. But that movie led directly to the same collaboration with Bill Blake, the writer, and Jack Bender, the director, into The Midnight Hour, which came out on November 1st, 1985. So that was sort of the genesis of this. Like, they clearly worked very well together. And like, as far as like the actors in this film go, everyone, like, everything I've been able to find online suggests that people just really enjoy doing this. Like, they thought it was a lot of fun. And I think that's part of why this movie is really successful, is that you can tell that everyone who was making this film, both in front of the camera and behind it, was just like, let's have some Halloween fun. Like, let's be scary, let's be spooky, let's be funny, and let's have a good time and like do our work well. And I feel like that really comes through. And that's one of the Midnight Hour's greatest strengths, is that you can tell that every bit of it was made with love and trying to do the best we can do. Yeah, it's not a theatrical film. It's a made for TV movie, but I think they made the best Halloween movie ever made.
Oh, it's really cute. I really, really liked it. And I do think they had a lot of fun making it, because I had a lot of fun watching it. Do you feel that there's any props or lines or scenes that really stand out for you that horror fans might tend to overlook?
Great question. So like I mentioned a bit earlier, but like the scene where the dead rise from their graves in the enormously creepy cemetery, I do think is one of my favorite sequences in a horror movie ever. Like, it looks expensive. Like, there are so many costumed and made up like actors / extras like in that sequence, and they're all so specific. And again, combined with the amazing score, like it's super, super terrifying. I love that. I love also, as mentioned, like the sequence where Lucinda bites Melissa in the cellar with the wine bottles happening. I also love, and again, I feel like this is the only movie where werewolves scare me. And the sequence where, so there is a character introduced early in the film who is kind of like even though we're in Massachusetts, like he's the like redneck, like, tobacco chewing, spitting, like character who is the caretaker of the Pitchford Grove Witchcraft Museum, and fails to notice like the teenagers breaking in and out of the building to steal things. But there is a sequence around the midpoint of the film where that character is walking along like a darkened street in the middle of town, and he has a couple like big dogs with him at all times, and you just hear in the darkness the sound of a wolf howling, and the dogs freak out and they run away. And he looks into the dentist's office, and again, it's sort of the start of how the whole entire town is taken over by all manners of dead, as the curse says. And in this office, you see the werewolf lurking in the dark. And then he smashes through the window and just savagely attacks this character, like ripping at him and biting at him. And the camera shows it from above, almost like the eye of God, just watching him get brutalized. And like, my God, that was so scary to me at age 8 and still is today. And then, later on, he himself rises as a werewolf because, as the curse says, anyone who is touched by evil this night will become evil. And that's how everything happens. But yeah, that sequence is a particular favorite of mine. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is pretty scary, though. I'll be honest. Have you had a chance to talk to other horror fans who really enjoy this movie, and have they told you stories about how much they love it?
So in person, like, of course, like my mother, who introduced me to it, and my sister, who I introduced to it, probably at the same age I was, like very young. Like the Midnight Hour is very big in our family household still to this day. I told my mom I was doing this podcast episode, and she was very, very excited. But like, aside from that, like in real life, I have never met anyone else who has seen or heard of this film. I have had the privilege of interacting like in online forums, like on Reddit and such with folks, and on YouTube, like, cause with the comments of the film, like it, you have all these hundreds of comments of people who are like, I love this movie. I have to watch it every year on Halloween, just like I do, so like there is like a huge community of fans of the Midnight Hour out there. But I think, because it is not like streaming on any services, it is available on the Internet Archive and on YouTube in a restored version, but there's no physical release in print. It is harder to find, and I really hope that changes, because like, this movie was made 40 years ago, and I think it's incredible, and I hope it gets streaming and a new physical release and a new life, because like, it's so much fun. Like, put this on at your Halloween party next year. Everyone's gonna have a great time.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're a big fan of the film. I think we all are. But are there any drawbacks to it? Anything that you would criticize?
Great question. I mean, I think, as we talked about, like, some of the logic in terms of like the script and what happens is not perfect. Because the whole big setup of the movie is when the character of Phil Grenville, played by the wonderful Lee Montgomery, gives his presentation in his high school classroom about like the spooky history of Pitchford Cove, and that, you know, Lucinda Cavender placed a terrible curse on the town, and Nathaniel Grenville, the witch hunter, like brought an end to Lucinda's curse prior to Halloween, but no one knows how he did it. And, you know, we're getting into spoiler territory right now, but whatever. But the only reason why Phil knows how to end the curse is because Sandy, played by the wonderful Jonna Lee, is like, says to him at one point after, you know, it becomes apparent that all the demons of hell have been let loose on Pitchford Cove, that she's like, I heard this ritual once. I know how to end it. You need Grenville's ring. You need wax. You need bones from Grenville's grave. And that's how we get to the ending we get to. But if you think about that, like, Sandy died in the 1950s. She was not there in the 1690s when this happened 300 years ago. How would she know that? Because the script says so. And it's fine. Like, you don't, you know, it's okay. And again, like, the way this movie ends, I think, is so wonderful and very sweet, in a way. So it makes up for it. One thing I also do appreciate about this movie, and, you know, kind of, I appreciate, and also, like, if it were made today, would it be different? Probably. Is that in that scene where Phil Grenville is talking about what happened between Lucinda Cavender, who is Melissa Cavender, who is present in the room, like great grandmother, and Phil's own ancestor, the witch hunter, Nathaniel Grenville, his great grandfather. He does refer to, like, yes, like, Lucinda was Grenville's slave, and is talking about it. And you see Shari Belafonte as Melissa kind of sink into her chair, like, oh my God, are we really bringing this up? Is this white guy bringing this up? And she actually responds to it. In that presentation, she says, like, yes, I know, we all know it was that old black magic. Like, you know, so I appreciate, like, that racial nuance into this, that, like, even in 1985, like, you know, again, like, this white dude who is the descendant of a man who enslaved her great grandmother is, like, taking the stage and talking about the history, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to respond to this. Like, maybe this isn't your story to tell. And I like, you know, I like that a lot, you know. And again, if it were made today, I think that might be framed differently. But I think for 1985, for a TV movie, like, this movie handles, like, like, the racial, like, implications of this story, like, quite well.
Yeah. And, you know, 3 of the main characters are black, which I'm not sure how that compares to other made-for-TV movies of the day, but I would say that probably a lot of the casts of made-for-TV films at that time were predominantly white, so this is a little bit different. One of the interesting things I noticed I saw the remastered version on YouTube, and I think it really looks good, but I read a lot of the comments about the film, and a lot of the people were saying they want horror movies to be like this again. Maybe less emphasis on gore and sheer violence. They like the small town aspect. They like the makeup. They like the atmosphere. They want horror to be more like this. Your thoughts on that?
Wow. I love that. And I understand what they mean. Because, like, I am not you know, even though I am obviously a huge fan of horror, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But, like, I feel, for me, like, like, there is like, extreme gore that is done very, very well in many films, when it's in the service of the storytelling, right? But I also feel like there are a lot of movies, like, throughout horror history, but especially you know, in the past couple of years, I would say, where like the gore is like the main thing. Like, it's not about the story, it's not about the characters, it is about the blood and guts you see on screen. And if you enjoy that, that's great. You know, I'm just to be specific about it, like the three Terrifier movies that have come out, I hate them. I appreciate the craft of like the gore and the practical effects and the work that goes into that. But for me, like that's not enough. Like, yes, have that, but also have like a story and a plot that people will care about, and you know, characters that people will care about. Otherwise, you're just doing like a reel for your, you know, special effects. That's not a movie. That's just my opinion. You know, so like I think, and it's interesting that like folks talk about the midnight hour in that way online, but I do agree in that, like, because it was a made for TV movie, there was a, you know, a limit to what they could do. And my God, I think in the midnight hour, they pushed the limit of what they could do in terms of like the violence, and the makeup and the horrific imagery. Like the midnight hour as it aired in 1985 would not get anywhere near television today. No way. Like,
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, last question on the film. Rating of 1 to 5 stars. What do you give this film?
Oh, surprise, surprise. 5 stars.
5
like,
stars.
I think it is my perfect Halloween movie. I think it has everything you want. It's funny, it's scary, has great acting, great makeup, perfect Halloween atmosphere, and great soundtrack, and a fabulous musical number. I love it.
All right, so 5 stars from Josh. Tracy, how about you?
I'd say 4.5. I totally agree with Josh. Loved it. The cast and the story. Like, I can't speak enough about the cast. They were all so phenomenal. Who's of the 80s, and the music was really cool too. So, yeah, absolutely loved it.
Well, I like the film as well. I'm perhaps a little bit of a tougher grader. I'm going to give 3.5 stars, which is still excellent. It is a made for TV movie, but you see the remastered version of it. It's very well done. Lots of atmosphere, really excellent makeup effects. My only criticism of the film, there's not enough Dedee Pfeiffer in it. She's only in a few scenes.
True.
She's in every scene, and then that would have made it a 5-star movie for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I do have to agree with you, Bruce, about Dedee Pfeiffer. Like, she is great in this movie, as she always is, but yeah, she does not get enough to do. What she does have to do is lovely, but she's more of a like device as a character than like a character with her own agency and point of view. And like, if there was one thing I would change, if there were a director's cut, more Dedee Pfeiffer's Mary in this movie.
All right, we agree on that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get some quick thoughts from Josh on a new film that has just hit theaters. It's called Begonia. We'll also find out from Josh what kind of upcoming gigs he's got going on. We'll be back in a moment on the Ghostly Gallery podcast. Welcome back to the Ghostly Gallery podcast. We continue with our guest, our good friend Josh Hitchens. We thank Josh for his tremendous insights on the film The Midnight Hour, which he gives 5 stars. An interesting movie that is just hitting theaters today, in fact, just released earlier this week. It is a film called Begonia. I've seen some of the ads for it. I don't know that much about it. It has gotten some strong reviews. And Josh, you are one of the people who has seen it. What do you think of it?
Yeah, so this was a movie that I have been looking forward to pretty much ever since it was first announced to be happening. It is directed by the wonderful director Yorgo Lanthimos. I loved his previous one of his previous movies, Poor Things, was my favorite movie of the year when it came out. And he's also done movies like The Lobster and The Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Favorite, and Kinds of Kindness. So like great director. Works really, really well with the actor Emma Stone, who won her second Academy Award for Best Actress for Poor Things. So I was very eager to see this. Begonia is an adaptation / remake of a 2003 South Korean movie called Save the Green Planet, which I also highly recommend. But Begonia takes that and takes it into a very American setting. And, I think I would classify it as a horror movie, and a very good one, and an extremely well-made one. Without giving too much away, because that's part of the fun of the film. The basic premise is that there is a man who is played by Jesse Plemons, maybe the best performance I've seen from him yet, who believes that the CEO of a major pharmaceutical company in America, played by Emma Stone, is an alien, and that she and her species are trying to destroy the human race. And so Jesse Plemons and his cousin's characters, they kidnap Emma Stone and imprison her in their basement and try and get her to admit that she is an alien bent on human destruction. So that's the main premise of it. And I felt that I saw a preview. It officially opened on Halloween yesterday, as we're recording this. But I saw a preview showing of it on Thursday, October 30th. And I was kind of knocked out by it. Like, it really does keep you guessing from moment to moment of what's going on. It feels like a movie that is very much of this moment in America, in particular in 2025, there's so much information out there. It's the internet. Everyone can choose which facts they believe are true. Right.
Yeah.
And it plays with that in really interesting ways. And it's just an astonishingly well made and acted film. And quite scary at times, in different ways.
Is Begonia the name of the Emma Stone character?
No. So that is a great question. So Emma Stone's character is named Michelle Fuller in the film. So again, the South Korean movie that this is based on and adapted from is Save the Green Planet. And the title was changed to Begonia, which is goes back to ancient Greece, where there was a belief that if you locked a corpse in a room for several days up to a week, then bees would spontaneously come into existence out of this dead body. And bees are a very, very big thread throughout the film. So that is the very obscure reference of why it is called Begonia.
So bees are attracted to Begonia?
So they talk about bees in the way that they are in the film, in the way that they are kind of a perfect ecosystem in a way, like they are all devoted to one singular goal, achieving that goal collectively, which is preserving the queen, preserving the hive. And are we as human beings not working together to achieve a similar goal?
Right.
That's kind of the question.
So you highly recommend this one?
I do. It's a very quick 2 hours, amazing and very unique score as well. Kind of movie music unlike any I've quite heard before. And again, amazing performances. And like I said, keeps you guessing till the end. It does get pretty intense. There are some funny moments in it, but there's a lot of intensity. There is some very shocking and unexpected moments of violence that happen. So go into it with that in mind. But I think it's a movie that is well worth watching. And I would say if you do go see it in the theater, watch through the entire closing credits, because there's a story being told through sound there that I think is very important.
All right, very good. Sounds worthwhile. Final question for Josh Hitchens. What are you doing now? Are you still hosting horror films? You have any acting gigs coming up? Tell us what's on your plate.
Great. Yeah. So we're at the end, October was a wonderfully, wonderfully and delightfully busy month for me, as it always is. I'm a bit relieved to get to the end of it, now to have a little bit more free time, but, everything I got to do this month with movie showings and theater performances and events for my different books were such a joy. But I am looking forward to a little bit of a rest. I am continuing my horror hosting as Josh Hitchens, Philly horror movie host, every first Monday of the month at Star Garden Recreation Center at 6 and Lombard in South Philly. Well, Center City, borderline South Philly.
Josh Hitchens. Is this a new name for you?
Yeah, well, that is my horror host name, which a friend of mine gave me, because I put on when I first started being a horror host and got a venue who would allow me to do it in the first place. I put a call what should my horror host name be? And one of my friends commented on my Facebook status, Josh Hitchens. I was like, done. That's it. That's it. Yeah, and again, that's the first Monday of every month. You can find me on Facebook with Josh Hitchens, Philly horror movie host. Also, if you follow Star Garden Playground on Facebook and Instagram, they repost my stuff. But yeah, we're every first Monday of the month, and coming up soon, Monday, November 3rd, I'm going to be hosting the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the first Saturday in December, I'm going to be hosting Black Christmas, the original. And then in January, we'll be Eraserhead to pay tribute to the 1 year almost passing of my favorite director and mentor, David Lynch.
Very good. Sounds like a busy time ahead for you. Our guest has been Josh Hitchens. Josh does it all: playwright, author, theater director, actor, historian, horror host. As always, Josh, great stuff, great insights on the midnight hour. We do appreciate it. Thanks.
It is my pleasure. It is always an honor to be here with both of you. Thank you all so much for having me and for the great, great work you do.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you, Josh. Thanks also to Tracy, as always, doing a great job as co-host and producer of this little shindig that we call the Ghostly Gallery. We do thank everybody for joining us in our little Museum of the Macabre, and we hope to see you again next time right here in the Ghostly Gallery.